The stars hung silent above Kepler 442b as the Vrelian exploration vessel dropped out of quantum space. Commander Talon stood at the viewport, his forearms folded across his chest, watching the planet rotate below. His crystalline eyes reflected the violet clouds that wrapped around the world like a poisonous blanket. "This is wrong," he muttered. Officer Cress looked up from her console, 3 of her 4 eyes blinking in confusion. "Sir. The readings. They show power signatures. Cities. But this planet was marked uninhabitable 2 centuries ago. The atmosphere contains sulfur compounds and carbon monoxide. Nothing should be alive down there." Cress ran the scan again, her fingers dancing across the controls. The results remained the same. Organized settlements. Energy grids. And something else that made her breath catch, radio transmissions in a language the computer recognized as human. "Commander, that is impossible. Humans are confined to their home system. They barely have the technology to reach their own moon colonies. How could they be here?" Talon said nothing. He simply gestured for her to take the ship down. As they descended through the purple clouds, the truth revealed itself in pieces. First came the solar arrays, stretching across a valley like silver wings. Then the cities, rough and improvised, built from salvaged metal that looked like parts of a starship. Agricultural domes dotted the landscape. Roads connected everything in a web of organization and purpose. And everywhere, humans walked freely in air that should have killed them within minutes. The ship landed on a designated pad near the largest settlement. Talon could see figures gathering, humans in simple clothing, watching the alien vessel with curiosity rather than fear. A welcoming committee, he realized. They had been expecting visitors eventually. The airlock opened, and Talon stepped out first, his security team behind him. The air hit him immediately through his suit's filters. Toxic. Lethal. Yet the humans standing before him wore no protection at all. A man in his 50s stepped forward, his face weathered by years under an alien sun. He smiled warmly and extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting. "Welcome to New Hope. I'm Dr. James Parker, Chief Medical Officer. We've been waiting a long time for someone to find us." Talon's translator worked through the words, but he struggled to form a response. His eyes fixed on the man's chest, watching it rise and fall with each breath of poisonous air. "You are breathing," Talon finally said. "How are you breathing?" A younger woman joined Parker, perhaps 30 years old, with confident eyes and calloused hands. "Every day for 200 years, Emma Walsh said. She was the colony administrator, he would learn later. Our ancestors' ship crashed here. We had no choice but to adapt." "Adaptation requires millions of years," Officer Cress said from behind Talon. Her voice carried the disbelief they all felt. Emma smiled, and there was something in that expression, pride mixed with sadness. "Not for humans, apparently. We're stubborn that way." Over the following days, the Vrelian team conducted every scan their technology allowed. The humans cooperated fully, curious about the aliens' equipment and eager to understand what made them different. Every result defied what Talon knew about biology. Human lungs processing toxic compounds as readily as oxygen. Blood chemistry that would register as lethal poisoning in any other species. Cellular structures that had fundamentally changed from baseline human genetics. And the children, those born on this world, had never breathed Earth-standard air and would never need to. Dr. Parker showed them the medical records one evening in the colony's small research facility. "When the ship crashed, we lost 2,000 people immediately. Another 3,000 died in the first year, their bodies unable to handle the atmosphere. But some survived longer than others. Their children survived even better. By the 3rd generation, babies were being born already changed." Talon studied the genetic charts, his mind racing through possibilities and finding none that made sense. This level of genetic plasticity should not be possible. Evolution does not work this quickly. "Maybe not for most species," Emma said. She stood at the window, looking out at children playing in a courtyard. Their laughter echoed through the purple-tinged air. "But humans have always been good at surviving where we shouldn't. We're adaptable. It's what we do." The commander watched the children for a long moment. They ran and played like any young beings, completely unaware that their existence violated every principle of evolutionary biology the Concordance understood. That night, Talon filed his report. The words felt inadequate for what he had witnessed. A species that could transform itself in mere generations could spread anywhere, become anything, survive conditions that killed everyone else. The discovery was remarkable. It was fascinating. It was terrifying. Because a species this adaptable was either the galaxy's greatest hope or its most unpredictable threat. And Talon had no idea which. The Galactic Concordance would have to decide. The laboratory hummed with quiet activity as morning light filtered through the windows. Dr. Parker stood beside a young colonist named Thomas Reed, preparing to draw blood for analysis. Thomas was 23 years old and had never known any world except this one. He rolled up his sleeve without hesitation. Commander Talon and Officer Kress watched as Parker extracted the sample and placed it under the microscope. The projection displayed on the wall, and everyone in the room fell silent. "Look at this," Parker said, pointing to the cellular structure. "Thomas's mitochondria process the sulfur compounds in our atmosphere and convert them into energy. His body does not just tolerate the poison. It uses the poison as fuel." Kress moved closer to the display, examining it with all four of her eyes. "This is not tolerance. This is complete biological transformation. How is this information being passed from parent to child so efficiently?" Rebecca Hunt, Parker's young assistant, shook her head. "We honestly do not know. We are not trained scientists like you. We are survivors who learned what we needed to survive." Thomas flexed his hand after the blood draw. "My grandmother was born on the ship. Earth Air. My mother was born here in year 5 of the colony. The doctors say her lungs were halfway between. Me? I tried breathing Earth standard air once in a sealed room. Made me dizzy and sick. This air is normal for me." Talon found himself fascinated by more than just the biology. The colony itself was a marvel of human ingenuity. 50,000 people had built a complete civilization from the wreckage of their generation ship. The original vessel's hull now formed the central government building. Its engines provided power to the entire main city. Every piece of metal, every circuit, every resource had been salvaged and repurposed. Emma Walsh guided them through the agricultural sectors that afternoon. Massive domes covered fields of crops that looked almost like earth plants but subtly different. "We cannot eat the native life here," she explained. "Different amino acid structures. Our bodies cannot process it. So we had to engineer our earth crops to tolerate the local soil." "How long did this take?" Talon asked. 40 years. Countless failures. Entire harvests that died or grew poisonous." Emma stopped before a statue of an elderly woman with kind eyes. Margaret Chen. First-generation survivor. She lost her husband and son in the crash. Spent 50 years crossbreeding wheat until it would grow here. She died the same year we achieved food independence. The plaque beneath the statue read simply, "She taught us that impossible only means not yet." That evening, Talon attended a colony council meeting. He expected a formal assembly, perhaps a ruling class or military leadership. Instead, he found chaos. Hundreds of colonists packed into a meeting hall, shouting opinions about water distribution, arguing about building permits, debating educational funding. Yet somehow decisions emerged from the noise. Mayor David Foster, a gray-haired man elected by popular vote, tried to moderate the discussion. People disagreed with him openly. They challenged his ideas. And he listened. "You govern by everyone having a voice?" Kress asked during a break. "Democracy," Foster said. "Every adult gets to vote. Every person gets to speak. Yes, it is messy. Yes, it takes forever. Yes, half the time we are furious with each other. But it works." "The Vrelian Empire has one voice," Kress said. "It is efficient." Emma, who stood nearby, turned to face them. "Maybe. But when that one voice makes a mistake, your entire empire goes with it. When we make mistakes, we can change direction. We can vote out bad leaders. We can try new approaches." Later that night, back on the ship, Talon prepared his report for the Concordance. His conclusion was clear: humanity demonstrated remarkable biological adaptation, exceptional problem-solving skills, and stable social structures despite 2 centuries of isolation. They posed no threat to anyone. He transmitted the report and waited for acknowledgement. It arrived within hours, but not the response he expected. Other ships had entered the system. Scout vessels from a dozen different alien species, all watching the colony from orbit. Word had spread across the galaxy faster than Talon had imagined possible. Humans could survive anywhere. Humans could adapt to any environment. Humans could transform themselves in mere generations. Some species saw potential allies and trading partners. Others saw competition for resources and planets. And a few, a vocal, frightened few, saw something dangerous that needed to be contained before it spread beyond control. Talon's console beeped with new orders. Return to Vrelian space immediately. Do not make further contact with the colony. The Galactic Concordance Council had convened an emergency session. The subject, what to do about humanity. Through the viewport, Talon could see New Hope's lights twinkling in the purple twilight. Children were probably being tucked into bed down there. Workers heading home after long shifts. Families sharing meals. All of them completely unaware that the galaxy's most powerful civilizations were deciding their fate. Talon looked at the peaceful colony one last time before ordering the ship to jump to quantum space. The humans had survived a crashed ship and a poisonous planet. Now they would need to survive politics. The Concordance chamber floated in the darkness between stars, belonging to no world and every world at once. Commander Talon stood in the center of the vast circular room, surrounded by representatives from 47 different species. Some sat in chairs, others floated in tanks of liquid, and a few hung from the ceiling on specialized perches. Thousands of eyes watched him from every direction. Ambassador Vex spoke first, his insect-like mandibles clicking with agitation. The human colony breaks every rule we understand about evolution. 3 generations to complete genetic transformation? This is not natural. It is dangerous. Talon kept his voice calm and steady. I witnessed a peaceful society. They have built a democracy from nothing. They share resources fairly. They threaten no one. A serpentine creature rose from her water tank, scales glistening under the chamber lights. They threaten the natural order itself. Our species needed 4 million years to develop space travel. Humans achieved it in thousands of years. Now we discover they can reshape their own bodies within generations? What happens when they decide to reshape the galaxy? Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. Talon could feel the fear spreading like a disease. Fear of the unknown. Fear of change. Fear of a species that refused to follow the rules. Ambassador Quinn of the Lydian Collective raised one hand for silence. His species was known for careful, logical thinking. Commander Talon, I have a question. What would happen if these humans encountered a world filled with deadly diseases? Or a planet with extreme radiation? Based on your observations, what would they do? Talon hesitated because he knew the answer would not help his case. They would likely adapt. Within a few generations, their bodies would change to handle the new threats. The chamber erupted in worried voices. Species shouted over each other in dozens of languages, the translators struggling to keep up with the chaos. They could live anywhere, someone shouted. They could spread to every corner of the galaxy. They could outcompete us all through sheer biological flexibility. Ambassador Vex stood tall, his voice cutting through the noise. This is exactly why we must act now. Quarantine all human worlds. Prevent their expansion. Study them until we understand how to control this ability. Or, said Ambassador Noor of the peaceful Whelm species, her voice soft but clear, we could embrace this opportunity. Imagine what we might learn from studying their adaptation. New medicine. New ways to terraform hostile worlds. New techniques for survival. The debate continued for hours. Talon presented every piece of evidence he had collected. He showed recordings of human children playing peacefully. He displayed their democratic voting systems. He played audio of Emma Walsh saying, "We do not want to conquer anything. We just want to live." But fear was a powerful force, and many delegates remained unconvinced. During a recess, Ambassador Quinn approached Talon in a private corridor. Commander, there is something you need to see. Something that has been sealed in our archives until now. Quinn led him to a secure vault deep within the station. Ancient computer systems hummed to life, displaying files that were 300 years old. Radio signals from Earth. Primitive television broadcasts. Early computer data. We have been watching humanity since they first discovered radio transmission, Quinn explained quietly. Every species that reaches this milestone gets monitored. Most develop slowly and predictably over thousands of years. He pulled up a timeline that made Talon's breath catch. Humans went from industrial revolution to atomic power in 2 centuries. From atomic power to space stations in 1 more century. Their computer technology advances exponentially every few decades. Talon stared at the data in disbelief. They are accelerating. Culturally, technologically, and now biologically, Quinn confirmed. We ran projections. Every model shows humans spreading across the galaxy within 500 years. Not through war or conquest, but through pure adaptive success. They will simply survive better than everyone else. Is that such a terrible thing? Quinn's expression was impossible to read. The question is not whether they are a threat, Commander. The question is whether the galaxy is ready for them. The next day, the Concordance reconvened for final arguments. Ambassador Vex proposed immediate quarantine. Seal off all human systems. Prevent any expansion. Study them like laboratory specimens until their adaptation could be understood and controlled. Other delegates supported the motion. The fear was too strong. Change was too frightening. Talon stood to speak one final time. He had lived for 8 centuries. He had led exploration fleets for 6 of those centuries. He had seen wonders and horrors across 1,000 worlds. And he knew what he had to say. I have seen something in these humans that we have forgotten, he began. They are not rigid. They do not cling to old ways simply because they are comfortable. They question everything, including themselves. Yes, they are unpredictable. But perhaps that is exactly what a galaxy of unchanging empires needs. He projected images of New Hope on the chamber screens. Children laughing. Humans and Vrelians working together. The statue of Margaret Chen with her defiant message. We have become static, Talon continued. We have spent 10,000 years perfecting our civilizations until they cannot bend, cannot grow, cannot change. These humans have been in space for mere centuries and they are still evolving. Maybe that terrifies us because we have forgotten how to do the same. The vote was called. 24 species voted for quarantine. 22 voted for integration. 1 abstained. A perfect tie. The chamber fell silent. According to ancient law, a tied vote meant the decision passed to the Concordance Prime, the eldest species who had founded the Council millennia ago. Their representative had remained silent throughout the entire debate, watching with ancient eyes. Now she rose slowly, her voice carrying the weight of ages. A test, she said simply. Before we decide humanity's fate, let them show us who they truly are. 3 weeks later, a Concordance ship descended through the purple clouds of New Hope. Ambassador Quinn led a delegation of representatives from multiple species, each one carrying the weight of the decision that would determine humanity's future. Emma Walsh and Dr. Parker met them in the administrative hall, surrounded by nervous colonists who sensed that something important was happening. Quinn wasted no time with pleasantries. Mayor Walsh, the Concordance has prepared a test. Your response will determine whether humanity joins our society or remains isolated forever. Emma exchanged a quick glance with Parker before nodding. We are listening. Quinn activated a holographic display showing the system's third moon. It hung in the air between them, rotating slowly. This moon contains deposits of rendered titanium, one of the rarest minerals in the galaxy. With it, your colony could build real starships, not just repair the old wreckage. You could create advanced medical facilities. You could build communication arrays strong enough to contact Earth. Daniel Brooks, the colony's chief engineer, stepped forward from the crowd. What is the problem? The titanium deposits lie directly beneath breeding grounds for the moon's native creatures, Quinn explained. The hologram zoomed in to show large, whale-like beings swimming through underground caverns filled with strange liquid. They are not intelligent like us, but they are complex. Similar to Earth whales in their awareness. Mining operations would destroy their breeding cycle. They would be extinct within 2 generations. The hall fell completely silent. Every human present understood what was being asked. How much time do we have to decide? Parker asked quietly. 72 hours, Quinn replied. No more. The colony exploded into debate. Town halls filled beyond capacity as people argued passionately about what choice to make. Engineers insisted the titanium could transform their lives. Biologists spoke about moral responsibility to other living creatures. Parents worried about their children's futures while conservationists talked about the right to exist. Thomas Reed stood up in one packed meeting, his voice shaking with emotion. We survived because we learned to live with this world. We adapted to it instead of destroying it. Now we are going to kill creatures who are perfectly adapted to their home? For what? So we can call Earth a few years sooner? An older woman named Ann Miller rose to respond, tears in her eyes. My daughter has a disease that is slowly killing her. The medical technology that titanium could buy might save her life. It might save dozens of lives. Are alien creatures worth more than human children? Mayor David Foster tried to keep order, but the arguments grew louder. Some people shouted. Others cried. A few simply sat in stunned silence, unable to choose. Commander Talon watched from the back of the hall, observing everything. He had seen this test given to dozens of species over the centuries. Most chose the resources without hesitation. Progress over preservation. Advancement over ethics. It was considered the natural way of things. Emma Walsh did not sleep for 3 days. Talon saw her at all hours, meeting with engineers, talking to biologists, consulting with the concordance scientist who had remained to observe. Her eyes grew red and tired, but she never stopped working. On the morning of the final day, she called an emergency session. Every colonist who could walk, crawl, or be carried came to hear the decision. The concordance delegation assembled in the front row, waiting. Emma stood at the podium, looking exhausted but determined. "We have made our decision. We decline the titanium." Ambassador Vex leaned forward sharply. "You choose nothing? You reject advancement?" "No," Parker interrupted, stepping up beside Emma. "We choose a third option. We have spent the last 72 hours working with our engineers, our biologists, and your scientific teams. We have designed an alternative." Rebecca Hunt activated a new holographic display showing detailed technical plans. Precision laser drilling from orbit. We extract the titanium without ever touching the breeding grounds. It is slower. It is more expensive. It will take 5 times longer to gather what we need. Daniel Brooks added his own schematics to the display. "We also propose creating protected zones around all breeding areas. We will build artificial habitats as backup sites in case something goes wrong. If we are going to share this system with other life, we need to do it responsibly." Quinn studied the plans carefully. "This delays your technological advancement by decades. It sets you back significantly." Emma met his gaze without flinching. "So what? We have been here for 200 years. We can wait another 50 to do things the right way. Our ancestors did not survive impossible odds by taking shortcuts. They survived by respecting the world that kept them alive. We are not going to forget that lesson now." Daniel smiled despite his exhaustion. "Besides, the engineering challenge will push our technology in completely new directions. Sometimes the difficult path teaches you more than the easy one." The concordance delegates exchanged looks across species barriers. Something shifted in the room, subtle but profound. Even Ambassador Vex seemed taken aback. "In 40,000 years of testing emerging species," Vex said slowly, his mandibles clicking softly, "none have ever proposed a third option. Every species sees only the binary choice we present." Emma allowed herself a tired smile. "Then maybe you have been asking the wrong species. Or maybe you just needed to wait for one stubborn enough to look for another answer." The delegation departed that evening to deliver their report. Talon remained behind briefly, finding Emma alone in the observation dome. She stared out at the purple sky, watching the stars appear as night fell. "That was the right answer, was it not?" she asked without turning. "The one you wanted us to find?" "There is no right answer," Talon replied honestly. "Only revealing ones. Most species see a binary choice and pick one side. Humans saw a problem and decided to solve it differently. That tells us more about your people than any genetic scan ever could." The concordance chamber gathered 1 month later, but this time the atmosphere was completely different. No angry voices. No fearful accusations. Ambassador Quinn stood at the center and announced the decision that everyone already knew was coming. Humanity will be integrated as a probationary member of the concordance, with full rights pending final evaluation in 10 years. The vote was unanimous. Even Ambassador Vex agreed, though his mandibles still clicked with uncertainty. But Commander Talon had requested permission to speak one more time. He stood before the assembled delegates with data that would change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. "During our extended stay on New Hope," Talon began, "Dr. Parker and our xenobiologists made a discovery that we were not looking for. With the colonists' permission, we conducted deep-sequence DNA analysis on multiple human subjects. The holographic display activated, showing the complex spirals of human genetic code. Beside it appeared genetic samples from dozens of alien species, collected over thousands of years of concordance research. Here, Talon highlighted specific sequences with a beam of light, are dormant fragments in human DNA that match segments found in the Vrelian genome. Here are trill genetic markers. Here are Weln sequences. Lydian patterns. 23 different species are represented in supposedly isolated human evolution." The chamber fell into stunned silence. Even the translators seemed to pause, as if the machines themselves could not believe what they were processing. Ambassador Vex found his voice first. "That is impossible. Our species evolved 30 million light-years apart. We have never had contact with Earth. Yet the evidence cannot be denied." Talon expanded the display to show overlapping genetic maps. "Humans are not just highly adaptable. They are a genetic convergence point. Either an ancient precursor race seeded these patterns across the galaxy millions of years ago, or convergent evolution operates on principles we have never understood. Dr. Parker appeared via holographic transmission from New Hope, his image projected beside Talon. "We are not special," he said simply. "We are connected. To all of you. The galaxy is not dozens of separate evolutionary paths. It is one enormous, interconnected system that we are only beginning to understand." Ambassador Noor of the Whelm leaned forward, her voice filled with wonder. "If humans carry genetic echoes of so many species, and they can adapt so rapidly, then they are not invaders or competitors," Talon finished for her. "They are relatives. Strange and distant relatives who might help us understand our own origins." Rebecca Hunt joined Parker's transmission, her young face serious and focused. "There is more we discovered. The genetic switches that activated in our colonists are not random mutations. They are responding to environmental pressures using pathways that exist in all complex life forms. These pathways are dormant in most species, but active in humans." Quinn stood slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. "Are you suggesting that all our species could potentially adapt as humans do?" "Maybe not as quickly," Rebecca admitted. "But the biological mechanisms are present in every species we have tested so far. Humans are not unique. We are just early to activate something that appears to be universal. Given enough time, enough environmental pressure, and enough necessity, any species might develop similar adaptability." The implications spread through the chamber like ripples in water. Thousands of years of understanding evolution, of believing species were fixed and separate, suddenly revealed as incomplete. The very foundation of concordance science had been built on assumptions that might be wrong. Talon concluded his report with quiet conviction. "Humanity's presence does not threaten the concordance. It expands our understanding of it. They have shown us that adaptation, both biological and cultural, might be our greatest collective strength. Their flexibility is not a weapon to fear. It is a tool we all might learn to use." The session ended with more questions than answers, but fear had transformed into curiosity. Within weeks, New Hope became more than just a human colony. It became a research hub where species from across the galaxy came to study adaptation, cooperation, and the mysterious connections written in all their genetic codes. 10 years passed. Commander Talon returned to New Hope for a dedication ceremony marking humanity's full acceptance into the concordance. The colony had grown to 90,000 residents, now including people from a dozen different alien species who lived and worked together. Emma Walsh, now the official concordance representative for humanity, stood with Talon overlooking the expanded city. Below them, human children played with young Vrelians and Whelm in the purple-tinted air. Their laughter needed no translation. "Your people spent 10,000 years perfecting your civilization," Emma said, looking out at the hybrid community they had built. "We did it in a fraction of that time, not because we are better, but because we never stopped changing, never stopped questioning, never stopped adapting." "You changed us too," Talon admitted quietly. "The concordance had become comfortable, rigid, set in our ways. You reminded us that the universe rewards flexibility, not perfection." A group of scientists passed by, arguing enthusiastically about protein structures. Thomas Reed, now a respected xenobiology researcher, was explaining human adaptation to a fascinated Trill student. They spoke as colleagues, as friends, as equals. Emma smiled at the scene. "You know what became our official motto for galactic relations?" "Tell me." "We do not conquer the impossible. We learn to live with it." Talon's crystalline eyes caught the light of the alien sunset, refracting it into countless colors. "Perhaps that is the real discovery that changed everything. Not that humans can survive anywhere, but that true survival is about adaptation, cooperation, and the courage to keep changing." "Not just changing," Emma corrected gently, watching the mixed group of children run past. "Evolving. Together." Above them, ships from across the concordance came and went freely, carrying scientists and diplomats and students, all drawn to this colony where humans had proved something revolutionary. Evolution was not about being the strongest or the smartest or the most dominant. It was about being flexible enough to change, wise enough to cooperate, and brave enough to choose the harder path when it was the right one. And in learning that lesson from humanity, the entire galaxy had taken its own step forward in evolution.